What's up, guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, I wanted to talk about a topic that I found super interesting, and I think a topic that affects a lot of people nowadays, especially, and that is going to be addictive game mechanics. And is developers implementing these addictive game mechanics ethical? That's my question. So, what do I mean by addictive game mechanics? So, basically, what I mean is that certain game developers they can leverage psychological principles such as reward systems or maybe behavioral conditioning to create an addictive gaming experience. So by doing this and I guess breaking down human psychology, these developers can design games that make players crave for achievement. Maybe they can also crave social interaction and they start to crave continuous engagement of this game. So the players of these games, whether it be kids or adults, most of the time they're oblivious to these addictive implementations, and then they end up becoming addicted to these games, and then they become victims to these addictive game mechanics. So what exactly do we have currently in society to kind of base our decision on whether or not this should be ethical or unethical? So a good example that I like to use is the ACM Code of Ethics for Computing Professionals. And of course, this would apply to these video game developers. This code of ethics has many guidelines that these professionals should follow. The first one I want to talk about is avoid harm. So, of course, video games may be considered harmful if an addiction is developed. Of course, we all know a strong addiction is not exactly good for a person, right? So, a lot of dependency can be developed from a video game where people crave the dopamine associated with playing video games. The next guideline that I want to talk about is be fair and take action not to discriminate. So the be fair is really important here and can apply to many video games because some of these games, some of these addictive games have what's known as a pay to win mechanic, meaning players who pay more and invest more into the game have a higher probability of winning as compared to someone that doesn't pay for extra stuff in the game. The next guideline is, of course, be honest and trustworthy. So many of these video game studios, they're not exactly transparent about their manipulation techniques and what kind of addictive mechanics they have behind the curtains in order to sway more players to crave an addiction towards these games. So what are some examples of these addictive game mechanics? So I want to talk about firstly these reward systems that these games have. So certain games will implement a technique called variable ratio reinforcement. Now, what this is that this will give players rewards at unpredictable time intervals. Um, so it's kind of like a slot machine at a casino, more or less. A perfect example of a game that uses this technique is Overwatch with their loot boxes, which are basically these rewards that players get after a unpredictable amount of matches played. There's these loot boxes that contain character cosmetics, so basically skins or weapon skins, things like that. And the players of these games become addicted to playing more and more matches because they might get a loot box next match, right? So this can become very addictive, especially if you don't know how to control it or if you have an addictive personality. This is a super easy way for games to become easily and fastly addicting. So another addictive game mechanic that a lot of these games will use is going to be implementing some kind of item shop for the players. So what these item shops will do is they're going to sell players upgrades for the characters, whether it be skins or double XP or better weapons, things like that. So they can use these manipulation tactics such as showing a flash sale or having limited time only items. One of the most popular examples of this is Fortnite, which actually pioneered the item shop. It was one of the first to do it. And one of the ways that they're more subtle about it is Fortnite is actually free to play, but they have very expensive character skins, and they're always limited time. So a lot of players will buy expensive skins because they don't feel so bad because, well, they're telling themselves that the game was free. So in reality, they're not spending a lot of money. So another way that these games keep their players hooked for a long time is going to be these limited events and seasonal updates that they do. So a lot of these games will implement these seasonal updates and changes and keeping their players engaged and returning over long periods of time. This could be months or even years. A perfect example of this would be Call of Duty, which has these seasonal challenges, and this unlocks these season exclusive skins for the characters and weapon skins as well. Many of these games may implement a battle pass, which gives these players upgrades as they level up each season. So this can unlock new weapons every time they level up, and this motivates, of course, continuous play, and it digs deep into the reward system that these players crave, feeling accomplished for leveling up the character because they got a new skin or a new weapon, for example. So the big question is, of course, are these video game mechanics ethical? And I would have to argue no. So the biggest reason, in my opinion, why something like this shouldn't be considered ethical is because of corporate greed. Now, of course, we know that in order for these companies to maximize profits, they need to keep their players on their game for as long as possible and incentivize them to keep spending money on the game. This could be buying more skins, buying more weapons, buying things that really doesn't help them at all in life or have anything of value outside of the video game that they're playing. Now, video game addiction is, of course, a very serious problem, and this can lead to a lot of anxiety, depression, and even social isolation by these, unfortunately, addicted players. The most susceptible to video game addiction are young teens and children that most of the time they're not fully aware of the psychological techniques used to keep them engaged into the game. So the lack of transparency from these companies raises a lot of ethical questions about, for example, the informed consent and the manipulation of these players. But hey, the only way to stop this really is for us as players to stop spending so much money on these games, on skins, on a bunch of other things that really have no value outside of the game. But what do you guys think? Is it ethical and should we do anything to stop it? Thank you guys for watching.